Good morning, everybody. My name is Michael Klemm. I'm the President, Director, and General Chairman of District Lodge 141, which essentially makes me responsible for the 7 contracts that we have on United Airlines. That covers the central load planners, the security officers, the fleet technical instructors and related, maintenance instructors, storekeepers, passenger service employees, as well as the ramp service employees. And I'm just here to share some insight with you and really to dispel a lot of misinformation that's out there. And and you'll be having an opportunity to vote this week. Speaking of which, you should have received your PIN already. If you have not received your PIN, we have a number that you can call, and we can put that up for you, please.
Yep.
Okay, and there you have it. If you call that number 1-888-373-0141 between the hours of 9 and 5, there'll be someone there to answer your call. If somebody does not answer your call, please leave your name and number, and they will get back to you. If you call outside those hours, you can also leave a message, and they will follow up and get back to you in the next business day. Okay, those hours are Central Time. I know we have a lot of time zones that we work in around the country, so just be aware that the 9 to 5 is Central Time. Okay, I just want to talk to you about again a lot of misinformation. First and foremost, if you don't vote, is it an automatic yes vote? Is it an automatic no vote? Nothing could be further from the truth. Unless you vote, your vote will not count. So we have about 11,500 passenger service employees. If 11 of them vote, or if 21 of them vote, and 11 vote no, and 10 vote yes, the contract for all 11,500 passenger service employees will be rejected, okay? And vice versa. If 6 vote yes and 5 vote no, then the contract would pass, okay? But what we want is we want 100% or as much participation as we can get. The second thing I want to talk about when it comes to the vote is there's 7 different contracts. So if 6 of them pass and 1 of them is rejected, the 6 that pass will go into effect July 1st, 2026, okay? And the one that gets rejected, we will start the process over and we will canvass the membership for proposals and see where they'd like to spend the money differently. But be aware that nothing would add more money or value to the contract. We just have to spend the money differently. And we'll get into some examples of that later on down the road. Okay, the first thing I wanted to talk about is job security, because there's a lot of misinformation out there about job security. So if you, and by the way, 19,000 of our 32,000 members have 2013 seniority or less. Okay, so that's about 59% of the people that were not here in 2013. So I want to talk about Article 2A1 and how this came about. Okay, Article 2A1, and read it for yourself. Please go into your contract and read it. It clearly lists the amount, the protected stations that are covered by the contract. Okay. Now this is predominantly this particular contract shows fleet service, but this goes for the passenger service group as well as stores. Some of the smaller groups don't need the listed stations because like maintenance instructors are only in 1 or 2 locations. Okay. But Article 2A1 clearly talks about the protected stations. And I just want to go back to 2013 to give you a little history, okay? In 2013, this particular article only had 7 stations on there, and those were the 7 hubs, which meant that any of the 45 line stations could have been outsourced at any time in 2013. So when we went into negotiations in 2016, we secured about half of the amount of stations that were unprotected. Stations like LaGuardia, Boston, Fort Lauderdale, Orlando, San Diego. There was about 20 of them, but I just want you to understand what the stations we protected in 2016. However, that did leave stations still unprotected, like your Indianapolis, your Konas, your Renos, that they had a deadline of July 1st, 2024. So a lot of people wanted to know, why did we do a 2-year bridge in 2023? Why did we only get a 2-year contract? Well, the truth of the matter is, on July 1st, 2024, if United Airlines wanted to, they could have outsourced the aforementioned stations as well as another 15. That you can go back and look at those contracts yourself and see which stations were not protected. So we made a decision as a negotiating team to get raises, get wages to put you back at the top of your classification in the industry, back at the top of your classification in the airline industry as far as pay, and bring those other 17 stations at that time, bring them into Article 2A1, which you can still see here. All those stations are listed now, okay? Furthermore, we brought in 5 new stations like your Miami, Atlanta below the wing, Raleigh Durham below the wing, Salt Lake City above and below, Colorado Springs above and below. So, along with bringing those 17 stations in, we also insourced 5 stations and the Denver below the wing express work. Okay. And express work is extremely important because this contract that you work under is the only contract in the airline industry that secures express work as core work that cannot be contracted out, whether it's to UGE, ABM, Swissport. None of those folks can do any of this protected work right here in Article 2A1. Okay? All right. So now if you go down a little bit, you'll see Article 2A2, which I think is something that's causing a lot of the confusion, right? You see that there's a trigger of 35 flights in order to insource work. That's not to protect the work. The stations listed above in 2A1 are protected indefinitely. The only way that those stations could be outsourced and that core work in those stations could be done by an outside vendor is if we negotiate it away and we bring it back to you to membership to vote on that, which has never happened and will never happen on my job, on my watch, okay? I just want to just go back up a little bit. In 2013, 14, and 15, very important to know this, United Airlines outsourced many stations, okay? It led to almost 3,000 jobs being outsourced to an outside vendor. Okay, at that time it was like ABM or Swissport, Unified, Menzies. Those were some of the vendors that were performing our work in those outsourced stations. Okay, in 2015, September 22nd, 2015 to be exact, I was very lucky enough to become your president, director, and chairman. I'm very proud to let you know and remind you that we have not lost one job. Not one job has been outsourced since I've been lucky enough to become your president. Okay? So I just want to go back. 2013, 14, and 15, nearly 3,000. In the last 11 years, not one. Very significant improvement. Job security is there, and it's very important that you know that. Okay? All right. Now, I just want to talk about 2A2 one more time. Okay? So it talks about the 35 flights to trigger in insourcing of work. So what that means is in a place like Nashville, okay? If United Airlines operated 35 flights a day for 9 months, that work automatically has to be performed by United Airlines customer service, ramp, stores, and so forth, okay? Now, if you go back to 2A1, you'll see that JFK is listed there, okay? Let me explain to you what that means. If United Airlines tomorrow operated one flight in JFK, one flight in, one flight out, that work has to be performed by United Airlines customer service and ramp. That does not need a 35 flight uh, uh, demand in order to meet that requirement for insourcing, okay? That's only for where that's stations that are not listed in 2A1 and that work is not protected, okay? So please don't worry about the 35 flight trigger. That's only to insource work. That is not to keep the work that's being performed in Billings or Reno. That work is protected in perpetuity until we negotiate away, which will never happen. Okay? All right. Now, let's talk about the pay scales. Let's talk a little bit about the contract. All right. This happens to be the customer service contract and the pay scale. All right. As you will see here, these are the increases. Over the life of the contract, it's nearly 27% increases in pay, okay? The other thing we did is we eliminated one step in the pay progression. That's why you see the highlight in red down below, is that's because that's an elimination of a step. So step 11 and 12 is essentially the same step, so now there's only 11 steps. A lot of people ask, why didn't you reduce it more? We tried to reduce it more. But at the end of the day, there's not a customer service agent or a ramp service employee who has a shorter pay progression in the airline industry, okay? Would we have liked to beat them? Absolutely. But United Airlines, we don't get just to tell United what we want. They get to negotiate what they want too, and they felt they needed to keep the pay progression at 11 steps to stay competitive with the other carriers. Okay? If we could go to the next slide. Okay, that's okay. All right. So these new pay scales that you just saw, that does not include any premium pay, any lead pay, any overtime shift differentials. That would all be on top of this. Okay. The date assigned means the date assigned is going to be July 1st. Okay. So when the contract comes out, if the contract passes, when the contract comes out, it'll be July 1st, 2026, July 1st, 2027, all the way up to July 1st, 2031. Okay. All right. Another misconception out there is that people that are in the pay progression are going to lose increases. That's not true. So the people that are in the pay progression, whether they're at step one, they're at step eight, regardless of where you are on the pay progression, okay, you're going to receive a raise every July 1st, as well as the anniversary for which you started with United Airlines. You'll also receive a step increase on that day as well. So you'll receive two increases where people at the top of pay, they will get their annual increases on July 1st of every year, 26, 27, and 28. Okay? All right. Now, if the contract passes, okay, you're going to receive a ratification payment. Okay? That's going to be $125 per completed years of service. All right. A lot, and United Airlines will be required to send you that check within 30 days of the ratification date, which, as I alluded to, is July 1st, 2026. Now, one misconception is that a lot of people feel that they are due more money than that. Okay, I just want to remind everybody, you last received a raise May 1st, 2025. If in a perfect world, if we were able to negotiate a deal with United Airlines and say, let's just say March, and you voted on it in April, we would have had what it's called a seamless contract. You would have got your next raise on schedule, which would have been May 1st, 2026. Unfortunately, could not make that happen. United Airlines, as you know, was holding out strong as far as if you paid attention to our communication, the retirement was the last thing we resolved. So, but we'll get into that in a minute, okay? But if what you need to know is 2 months, right? So 8 weeks of you're working in 8 weeks of retroactive status. That's from May 1st, 2026 to July 1st, 2026. That's about 8 weeks of pay, which at the top of scale, all right, would be about $1,150. Okay, that's 8 hours times that's 8 weeks at 40 hours, which comes out to about $1,150. If you have 10 years or more, you're going to get $1,250, right? For every 10 years, you're going to get $1,250, which is more than you would have got in strict retro pay. And we'll get into why that is in a few minutes when we start talking about vacation accrual. Okay, as I alluded to, the July 1st ratification payment has to be given to you within 30 days, which figure that's July 30th, July 31st. So you should get it by the end of the month. Okay, now let's talk about the seniority protection date. Okay, in 2016, the seniority protection date was 1994. Okay, and 1999 for the ramp book. Okay, so in 2023, we were able to move that seniority protection date up to 2019. Under this contract, everybody on the property on July 1st, 2026 will have the seniority protection date. Well, United Airlines will have to guarantee you a job. Okay? Doesn't necessarily mean it has to be in JFK. I happen to grow up in JFK. When they closed JFK, they had to give me the ability to exercise my seniority to LaGuardia or Newark because I was in a point. But what this language does, it protects everybody on the property July 1st, 2026. Okay? All right, which leads us to the next subject, which is vacation accrual schedule. Okay? Now, if you have 29 years or more, I'm going to be very honest with you. This vacation accrual schedule does not help you in any way, right? And I just want to be honest with you because I'm not here to sugarcoat anything. But anybody that has 28 years or less, this is going to drastically help you with vacation accrual. Okay. And now the vacation accrual is going to start January 1st, 2027. People say, well, how come it's not starting right away? When we initially proposed to enhance the vacation accrual schedule, United Airlines, they wanted to accrue vacation for the first 6 months of the year under the old accrual and the second 6 months of the year under the new vacation accrual, which we would have felt would have caused more confusion than anything. But United Airlines just didn't get that, right? Remember we talked before about the ratification payment, okay? The ratification payment of $125 per completed years of service times 32,000 members, that comes out to about $55.7 million, okay? What you need to know is 2 months of back pay, of scheduled pay from, again, May and June, 2 months of pay is about $10 million a month. That's $20 million. But this ratification payment schedule is going to bring you 55.7. And the reason for that is the vacation, because we're not getting the vacation accrual right away, United paid us in advance for that. So that was thrown into the ratification payment and why it's worth more than 20 million and why we were able to beef it up to $125 per year, completed year of service. Another big add to this, okay, is paid maternity and new parent leave. Okay, this will require United Airlines for when you have birth, if you give birth to a child on July 1st, if the contract passes, if you give birth to a child on July 1st, you will get 6 weeks pay from United Airlines, not your sick pay, not your vacation pay. United Airlines will be responsible to give you 6 weeks pay. And if you're a dad or a significant other to the mom who's delivering the baby or adopting the baby, then you will get 2 weeks pay. Okay, again, that comes out of United Airlines payroll. Okay, retirement, probably the most complex thing to talk about. Okay, so as you can see on the slide here that we have on the screen here, you have what's current and what will be new. So currently, if you have 0 to 5 years, you can get up to a $300 match. Okay, if you have 5 to 9 years, you can get if you contribute 4%. United Airlines is only required to contribute 1%. That's a 25% match. And if you have 10 to 14 years, you have to contribute 4 to get 2. That's a 50% match. And if you have 15 or more years, you have to put 6 to get 3. Okay, so that's a 50% match. If these contracts pass, as you can see in the box on the right, it will be a dollar for dollar match. It'll be 1% for 1%, 2% for 2%, and 3% for 3%. And the reason for that, some of you can contribute 6%. You can afford to do that, but a lot of our members, they live check to check, and they just can't afford to get the full maximum value of their contract, so they can't afford the 6, and therefore aren't getting the full value of their contract. Okay. Now you might ask, why if I have less than 5 years, can I not get as much of a match as someone who's senior to me? And there's a reason for that. Okay. United Airlines. Now, if you're in CARP, United Airlines is responsible to put essentially 5% into your CARP plan. Okay. The same holds true for the national pension plan, folks. Could we? Okay. Okay. So, all right. So yeah, let's go back. I'm sorry. That's my mistake. Sorry. That's my mistake. So let's talk about the pension. So 205, for every hour you work, United Airlines is responsible to contribute 205 into your pension. Okay. It's into the national pension plan. Okay. What you may not realize is that 205 of 1970 of $20.73 is 9.88% of your salary, right? So someone who's at top of scale making 37.82 an hour, 205 of 37.82 is 5.5%. Okay, so even though you have less seniority, you have 1 to 5 years, or you're making 20.73 an hour, because you're getting the same pension contribution as somebody at the top of scale, your percentage is actually significantly higher. So in order to balance that out, United Airlines proposed a company match from back in 2013, okay? A company match, which if you have 0 to 5, again, you can only do 300. 1 to 5, you can only get 1%. And if you have 15 years or more, you can get 3% to kind of balance out everybody's complete retirement. Because our goal in retirement, our goal when it comes to retirement was to get you 10%, was to get the company to contribute 10% on your behalf, okay? So how do we get to 10%? So I just kind of told you, whether you're in the CARP or National Pension Plan, that contribution from United Airlines is roughly 5%. Okay. Then we talked about the 3% match. I realized the 3% match is at the top of scale, but that gets you to 8. So we wanted to get 2 more percent. Okay. And United Airlines, and let's back up a little bit. As you may not know, or you should know, in 2019, the National Pension Plan, which is the company responsible to handle the retirement fund or the pension fund for the workers here at United Airlines, they self-imposed critical status onto the pension plan. Okay. What does that mean? So what happened to us is, starting in 2022, we lost benefits or options that would allow us to be 62 years old or with 20 years of service and leave United Airlines without any reduction in our retirement plan, in our pension plan, okay, in our monthly payment. All right. It also eliminated it eliminated a few things, but another one that many people will probably remember is that it eliminated if I had 30 years of service, regardless of my age. So if I was 30 years with United and I was 49 years old, I could leave United Airlines without any reduction in my pension. Okay. But what a lot of people don't know is that the National Pension Plan also has a contract with United. Has nothing to do with Mike Klemm, has nothing to do with District Lodge 141, but it's a contract that United Airlines has with the pension plan. And what the rehabilitation plan did to United was instead of just $2.05 going into your pension plan or United contributing $2.05 into your pension plan, United had to pay a penalty, right, because of the rehabilitation plan, which in 2022 was about 21 cents. Today, it's about 45 cents. And it's going to compound about 2.5%, and it's going to climb to 78 cents and stop climbing in 2031. Okay? So let me just explain that again. So 205 United has to put in because of our contract. And now the rehabilitation plan required them to put this additional 45 cents today, and it's going to go up to 78 cents in 2031. So United Airlines wanted protection from the pension plan increasing that penalty further, which by law they can increase they can increase the penalty if they so choose. The trustees of the plan can do that. Now, it's important for you to know that the IAM has trustees on the board. So does United Airlines. They have a trustee on the board as well. Now, we feel very confident that they're not going to increase the penalty. And just to give you a little bit of comfort with that, since 2019, when they announced the initial penalty schedule, it has not gone up 1 penny since. Okay? Very important to know that. So why do I tell you all this? Because if the penalty does not go up in the next 18 months, which is January 1st, 2028, United Airlines will be responsible to contribute 1% direct into your 401k account. Whether you contribute a nickel or not, United will be required to do that. And at the top of scale in 2028, that will be, you'll be making $43 and change an hour. So United will be required to put 43 cents for every hour you work into your 401k. Now, just to give you a comparison, if we would have negotiated increases to the National Pension Plan, go back in history will show you, we usually negotiate nickel increases. So the 205 would have went to 210, 215. As you can see, although we have to wait for it, in 2028, we're going to go to 43 cents for every hour. Another important thing for you to know is that the pension plan, United is only required to put 205 for every hour you work up to 40 hours a week. So if you work 80 hours in 1 week, if you work 80 hours this week and trade off your next week and don't work anything, United's only required to put that 205 in for only 40 hours, where the 1% direct contribution is unlimited. There is no cap on it. So if you work 80 hours in a week, United in 2028 will be required to put 80 hours times 43 cents into your 401k with no cap. And then that does not even include when you work overtime or you get lead premium on top of that. That will just enhance that benefit even more. Okay. Now, once we get that 1% in 2028, nobody can ever take it away from you. United can't take it away from you. The only way you could lose that is if we negotiate it in future contracts. Okay. So then from 2028 until the amendable date in 2031, if there's no increases to the pension, which again, I want to remind you, there has not been one increase since the initial schedule was announced of 1 penny since 2019. So we feel very confident that there will not be increases, but United wanted assurances. I couldn't guarantee them that because I don't run the pension plan. So that's just why we devised this plan. So again, in 2031, they're going to have to kick in another percent for a total of 2%. So let me just put that in layman's terms. In 2031, at the top of scale, all right, that'll be $48 and change an hour. United will be required to put 96 cents, right? That's $48, 2% of $48 for every hour worked into your pension plan, which is 96 cents, okay? 96 cents, unlimited amount of hours you work. That does not even include overtime. If you work overtime or you get lead premium, that's even higher, okay? So very important for you to know that. Now, once we get the 1% addition or the 2% or the second 1% for a total 2% in 2031, we can never lose that unless we negotiate it away. A lot of people say, well, why are we waiting for this? Well, again, United wanted some protection from the pension plan going up, which again, it hasn't done. And the second thing is the alternative to that was United said they don't want to negotiate any increases to the retirement until the next contract, which would not have been until 2031. So 5% for your pension, whether you're in CARP or National Pension Plan. If you do the full match, you get 3%, that's 8%. And then these two 1% increases gives you a 10% contribution from United Airlines has to be put into your retirement, which will be the industry best. Particularly 7% will be from United Airlines alone, whether you put anything into your retirement or not, that will be by far industry best. There are some that have matches that could be higher, but as I alluded to earlier, it's very difficult for people to afford to put money in to get the match. So this is why United Airlines being responsible to put this into your retirement is even better than a match. Okay, if we could go to the next one. I'm going to take a little sip of water here. I apologize about that. Okay, so let's talk about holidays. All right, this has been a little trickier than I thought. We were significantly about as I started off the webinar. We talked a lot about job security and all the outsourcing that was being done, and how our primary focus was job security, which we did an outstanding job. We just talked about it, right? In the 3 years before I became president, we lost about 3,000 jobs to outsourcing. Since I became president, not one job. So we fixed that. But some things slid by the wayside. And we are significantly, or we were, well, actually, we are still, because we have not passed this contract. We are behind the industry as far as observed holidays, okay? So one thing the negotiating team was very clear on was that people would not want to lose their birthday, right? So we made sure to keep the birthday. But one thing that's been expressed to me as I travel around the system is that now we have less flexibility, right? We have less. I used to be able to float my birthday. I used to be able to float my anniversary. Now I can't anymore. I look at that as a negative. Okay, so let's talk about that. So first things first, we proposed 4 new holidays, right? We proposed Martin Luther King Day. We proposed President's Day. We proposed Veterans Day, and we wanted to keep the employee's birthday. Okay, United Airlines, right? Again, this is a negotiation. They came back with Martin Luther King Day, Veterans Day, your birthday, and New Year's Eve in lieu of President's Day. And the reason they said that, I'll be very candid with you, is because that's their highest sick call of the day. But what we wanted to do is negotiate, that's their highest sick call day of the year. I don't know if I said that right. I just wanted to make sure I got that right. Okay. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to spread the money out throughout the year as best we can. You have you have a birthday, I'm sorry. You have a holiday in January. President's Day would be a holiday in February. Then May would be another one. We just tried to spread it out, where if we accepted New Year's Eve, you'd have essentially 4 paid holidays in the last 5 weeks of the year. It kind of would have defeated the purpose of getting more money in your pocket throughout the year. So we stayed true to our initial proposal, which was President's Day and the other holidays we mentioned, okay? United Airlines then came back on the last 24, 48 hours of negotiations and said, we'll give you Super Bowl Sunday, which I know there's a lot of people could care less about the Super Bowl, and I completely respect that, okay? But what we made a decision was Super Bowl Sunday is the day before President's Day. So we were one day apart, and at the end of the day, we've reached a position at the end of negotiations to put the decision in your hand on whether that was something to die over or just belabor negotiations in perpetuity here while we could be putting more money in your pockets. Okay, so that's why that came back as Super Bowl Sunday. So let's get back to the birthday. A lot of people, Mike, I lost flexibility. Union, I lost flexibility in not being able to float my birthday. So again, as I alluded to earlier, almost 59% of our, let me just make sure I got that right. Yeah, almost 59% of our members weren't even here in 2013. What you need to know is before 2013, before the joint collective bargaining agreements, your birthday and anniversary used to have a little juice to it. What I mean by that is if you walked into the supervisor's office 10 days before you wanted to use your birthday, so 10 days from now, you wanted to take it that day, you wanted to float your anniversary or your birthday to July 2nd, 2026. You walked into a supervisor with 10 of your coworkers. They could not reject your ask. They had to give all 10 people that day off, whether it was available or not in the company system, whether it was blocked out, whether it was a blacked out day, they could not block it out. Okay. Now that went away once the merger happened. Okay. So now those two floaters are essentially two DAT days. There are two extra DAT days, which over 58% of us, okay, all right, 58% of us get paid out vacation every February of the following year, which means 58% of us are not using our full vacation. So we took that data and we wanted to get more money into our members' pockets, and that's what fixed holidays does, right? So today, under your current agreement, you get 136 hours pay if you work all the holidays, okay? Under the new contract, if it passes, you will get 200 hours of pay, which is pay 64 more hours of pay times $41. You can do the math on how much money that is more in your pocket, out of United's pocket into your pocket. Okay. But Mike, I want time off. I don't care about money. Okay, well that's fair. If you don't have to worry about money, God bless you. I envy you, and I welcome that. So what you'll be able to do now is you'll be able to work your birthday. Another important thing to know is we have 32,000 members. 27,000 of our members float their birthday, so they work on their birthday. 27,000, only 5,000 people, a little less than 5,000 people take their birthday off on their birthday, which means you could work your birthday, you'll get 20 hours pay for that day, right? Double time and a half. When you work your birthday, you'll get double time and a half. That's 20 hours pay, okay? You can trade away 2 days. That's 16 hours. Now you're getting 2 for 1, and you'll still come out with 4 hours pay more, about $165 at the top of scale. You'll still come out more money than you were under the current contract. Okay? All right. So the birthday holiday rules, we kind of just walked through that. So we can go to the next one. Oh, I'm sorry, let's back that up. I just want to be sure if you take vacation the week of your birthday, you can still move your birthday to the beginning or end of that. All right. And just like it does today, if you want to take your birthday off, you'll have to notify them during the vacation bidding. So in November, when you bid vacation, you want to take your birthday off, and on April 2nd, you could lock that in during the vacation bidding so you know you're off on your birthday. And one last thing before I forget, if you work a trade on your birthday, right? That's good, we're good. If you work 6 to 2:30, okay, and then you pick up one of your coworkers' shifts from 2:30 to 10, okay, or 2:30 to 11, that 2:30 to 11, even though that's trade hours, that will be time and a half for the hours you work. So that'll be 16 hours at time and a half, right? Plus the 8 hours holiday pay because your birthday is essentially like Christmas Day now or Thanksgiving Day. So when you work a trade or a coworker's trade on your birthday, that's also time and a half. Now, vice versa, if a coworker picks up your birthday, that is not time and a half for them. I just want to be clear on that. Okay. So the vacation conversion for the medical bridge, all right? So right now, if you are 60 years of age, you can leave and get medical from United. You can retire and with medical coverage from 60 to 65 if you started November 1st, 1993 or before. Okay? So what this now allows now is for you to convert. You can convert 3 weeks of vacation a year. If you're going to leave in 3 years, but you don't have 660 hours, you can convert 3 weeks a year, those last 3 years, to get you to that 660, so you can get the required 660 hours. Now, a lot of people have asked me as I go around the country is, why didn't we improve this, or why didn't we add people with less than 1993 seniority or more? For every year we move, that costs about $15 million, right? And I'll be honest, that's not a big deal, right? If people used it. Less than 5% of our members retire before the age of 65. So as a team, we made a decision. If we move, let's just say we moved to 10 years, that'd be $150 million that we'd be taking out of the contract, right? We'd have to take that from somewhere, whether it was wages or maybe we get one or two less holidays. So the $150 million, when less than 5% of our members use it, we made the decision to leave the 1993 date alone and just give them the ability to convert vacation to enhance their medical bridge or get them the medical bridge hours they need to cover their sick pay. Okay, mandatory overtime. Okay, this is another very misinformed situation that's going on. Okay, so first and foremost, let's make it nice and clean. The 1 hour notification from United Airlines that they have to notify you for mandatory overtime still exists. If they notify you less than 1 hour, the penalty still remains. The 45-minute grouping that we're talking about, That is simply right. So let's just go with the 9 o'clock go home and shift at night. Okay. So we have the senior shift, right? The full time is, it doesn't matter whether you're full time or part time, but you work from 12:30 to 9, right? And the senior people go home at 9 o'clock. They were getting mandoed, right? And then the 9:15 or 9:30 go home, who happened to be junior to the 9 o'clock go home, they were being allowed to leave even though they were junior because the company was only mandoing the 9 o'clock shift. So what this language will do is it will allow local committees, everybody can do it how they want. You could either go from 9 to 9:45, or you can go from 9 to 8:15. And the local committees, with your feedback, they will lump together shift ending times within a 45-minute window so that the company will put those together and people will go home based on seniority in that 45-minute window. Now, a lot of people also said, but it says may. That may is up to the local committees, right? That's the company will not be able to say, no, we're not going to lump those 45 minutes together. But it might be a half an hour. So it might be only 9:15 shift. There might not be another shift that goes home until 10 o'clock. So that's what the May talks about. It will be a requirement for the local management and local committee to work out 45 minutes one way or the other, regardless of where you are in the day, in order to establish when the mandatory assignments are requested by United Airlines, that we can lump those times together so seniority is better honored. Okay? Okay. So here we are now we kind of put this up there in the beginning. If you did not receive your PIN, okay, here's the number to call. They'll be open from 9 to 5 Central Time. And I'm ready to answer some questions here.
Do you want the video?
Do you want what?
The
Yeah.
video.
Yeah. Oh, no, not that video.
Oh,
We'll
no,
put that at
this
the end.
video.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Okay. In that case, we can go to questions. Okay, so here's the Q&A, and if you want to answer it just by speaking out loud, we'll hit answer live. If you'd rather type it, then you can do that too.
Okay. All right. So I'll answer live. So I believe the question is why only 125 for signing bonus in 5 years? Okay. So the 125 for signing bonus is actually more value. If you missed it in the beginning, the 125 per completed years of service is actually more value, right? Because 125 per year of service for 32,000 members comes out to 55.7 million. Retroactive pay from May and June would be about $20 million total. So we got almost triple that in back pay. And the reason we got that is because the holidays are going to start January 1st. So Veterans Day, if the contract passes, Veterans Day will not be observed as an observed holiday this year. And the reason we had to do that is some people celebrated their birthday already. So it wouldn't be fair for the people who celebrated their birthday to get straight time where people that celebrate their birthday in the second half of the year get double time and a half. And 5 years, why is it 5 years? The reason we agreed to 5 years is United gave us two significant bumps in pay. In 2030, you'll get a 3.75 increase, and 2031 you'll get a 4% increase, which contributes to the nearly 27% wage increases you'll get over the lifetime of this contract. We would not have agreed to that if we didn't get a raise on the amendable date. Okay, let's skip that one. That's a too long a question. Okay. Good morning. So the question is what Delta will be making? So Delta today is making 38.50. They'll be going up to 40.04 on July 1st. Okay. And we got that from Delta employees. As you know, we had a Delta campaign, organizing campaign to try to bring them into the IAM. So we have people that work on the inside that tell us what the raises are going to be and when they're going to go into effect. Okay. So we're relying on those sources to get that. Okay. So the next question is about profit sharing, and I'm glad somebody asked this question. Okay, so we did propose to get the profit sharing the same as the pilots. Okay, the same as the Delta above the wing and below the wing storekeeper groups, American above the wing and below the wing. They all have the 10% formula, which ours is 5%. So let's talk about why ours is 5%. So in 2013, the IAM, I was not president at the time, but I was part of the union and I was part of the voting process. And United Airlines and the IAM District Lodge 141, they negotiated a contract that at that time gave our members 24.50, I'm sorry, $24 base pay and 10% profit sharing, just like the pilots at United and just like American and Delta above the wing and below the wing. And we rejected that contract. And again, a lot of people are under the false perception that when you reject a contract, that United Airlines is going to give you another $500 million to get you to pass it. I want you to think about that. If that was the case, nobody would ever vote for a contract, right? If United Airlines just lumped in another $500 million every time you said no, who would vote yes? It would never happen. But what really happens is you kind of spend the money differently, right? You kind of move the furniture around, okay? And that's what we did. That's what the union did in 2013. So what they did was, based on the surveys, people wanted more guaranteed money. So in the second TA that came out about 10 months later, United, the IM and United agreed to give people 24.50 base pay, and they reduced the profit sharing from 10% down to 5. And the membership passed that contract, and it was voted in. And not very important, not one union on United's property has negotiated improvements to the profit sharing since the joint collective bargaining agreements. Okay? The pilots stayed at 10, they took less money in 13. The flight attendants have a different formula than us. It's not necessarily better, although I will admit, over the last 5 years, their profit sharing has given them more value than ours in 4 of the last 5 years. But the flight attendants just spent 6 years in negotiations with a federal mediator trying to improve their profit sharing, and they were not able to do it. Okay, 6 years, they didn't get a raise for 6 years with the federal mediator, and the profit sharing remained status quo. Now, the United Airlines mechanics have the same profit sharing as we do here in the IAM. Okay, all 7 contracts have the same profit sharing. The United mechanics have the same profit sharing as we do. If that profit sharing changes, you guys should hold me accountable to that. And United Airlines and I are going to have an unfriendly conversation, but that's something you should pay attention to. And I expect the mechanics to reach a contract within the next month or two. And if that profit sharing checks, then I've disappointed you, I've let you down, but I fully expect that profit sharing to stay status quo. Okay? All right, what else we got here?
We've got this one from Todd.
Yeah, so this question is from a fleet technical instructor and why they didn't get as many holidays as the other group. And I just want to answer that question. So it's our understanding through the FTI folks that were on negotiations that you guys have essentially one built-in holiday or one built-in day off every month for the duration of the year. So that's why you guys didn't get the paid holidays, because you guys have a built-in holiday once a month to eliminate to give you guys a day off, plus your 2 holidays actually gives you 12. Okay, the next question is, can you please define mandatory overtime, and can you assure that this does not include errors made by the schedulers? Excuse me. So I wish I could promise you that United Airlines wasn't going to make any mistakes with mandatory overtime or anything in the contract. All right. United Airlines we're human, right? I mean, I hate to defend them, but they're human beings and they could make mistakes. And that's what the collective bargaining agreement is for. That's what your contract is for. And that is what the grievance procedure is for. Is so if the United Airlines does make a mistake, you can grieve them. And then United Airlines would have to pay the monetary penalty that comes with that. Okay, so our raise and continuing raises does not even keep up with past or future inflation. You yourself said a large portion of our employees live paycheck to paycheck, more 401k match has no good. Okay, so let's talk about inflation. Okay, nothing could be further from the truth that we have not outpaced inflation. Okay, so inflation goes up somewhere between 2.5%, 3% a year. Okay, your increases over the next 5 years is going to be nearly 27%. So even if inflation goes up 3% a year, that would be 15%. Okay. Listen, I understand that people want more money, I want to get you more money. But regardless of where you are in the pay progression, or what contract you are, whether you're a maintenance instructor, whether you're a central load planner, you will be the highest paid doing what you do for a living on at every step of the pay progression. So even if you're at step five, you're going to get more than somebody at Delta or somebody at American makes doing the same exact work that you do. Okay, but we are going to outpace inflation. Okay, please do the math on that. I assure you that we are.
Skip that one.
Yeah, we answered that one. Yeah, yeah. Is this the best you feel you could get from United? I'm going to tell you, I think this is more than United wanted to give us, and I'm going to tell you why I'm saying that. As you know, a lot of stuff is not happening on data sign, which is really the normal in contracts, is that you get whatever increases there's going to be, you get them on data sign. Because United was putting more money into this than they want to spend on this contract, some of those benefits do not increase until 2028 or 2027, like the holidays, 2028, 2029. A lot of the benefits, 2031, we continue to accrue benefits throughout the contract. And I do feel that this is the best contract we can get from the United Airlines. And by the way, the best, if these contracts pass, they will be. Let's go down a little bit. Will employees currently on a sick leave, EIS, be eligible for the signing bonus? The answer to that question is yes, they will. Okay. Another question about the FDIs and the Thanksgiving and New Year's Day. Again, we try to get more holidays in there, but again, your group gets a day off a month based on your scheduling, and the company considered those similar holidays. Do you feel like it's improper for United to be pushing? I don't believe United is pushing the contract. I think United Airlines has gotten a lot of their employees, right? At the end of the day, this is United's house. What they put on their TV, nobody can come into your house and tell you what to put on your TV. So what they put on their TV, that is their prerogative. I do not believe United is pushing the contract. I think what they're doing is they're simply dispelling a lot of misinformation. A lot of people think the 1 hour penalty went away, that the raises are not going to go into effect right away. So I believe what United Airlines is doing is simply just correcting a lot of misinformation. Oh, that's a great one. Okay. So a lot of people feel that their healthcare outweighs their cost of their pay raise. I'm going to show you nothing is further from the truth. So let's talk about healthcare, okay? We did get a lot of proposals to reduce healthcare, okay? So right now, as long as you're on a core plan, and I'm not here to tell anybody what healthcare plan to pick. You got to do what's best for you and your family. But a core health plan can only go up 9.2, the premiums can only go up 9.25 over year over year, okay? Now, if you're in a non-core plan, there is no cap on what United Airlines can increase those particular premiums, okay? So please do your research, look at your contract, and determine which, if you're in a core plan or a non-core plan. But if you're in a core plan, we did try to reduce the premium, all right? We did try to reduce that. United wanted to increase that, okay? So we consider status quo as a win. Now, you might disagree with that, but let's talk about the premiums, okay? So if you're spending, and I do this to make the math simple, if you're spending $10,000 a year in health premiums, which nobody should be spending that, I'm just doing this to make the math easy. If you're spending $10,000 in health premiums, please see your local committee and have them help you evaluate what health plan you're picking. But let's just, for math purposes, for easy math purposes, let's just say you're paying $10,000 a year in health premiums. Next year, in a core plan, next year, United can only increase your premium 9.25, which is $925. Okay? Now, 925 increase that, and that's on a $10,000 premium, which nobody pays. I think everybody's about half of that, so it's really $475. But to keep the math simple, $950 increase year over year. In the first year alone, your first 12 months alone, at the top of scale, you're going to make $6,700 more under the new contract than you were this contract. Okay? You tell me which bag of money would you rather have? The bag of money with $6,700 in it with your pay raise, or the bag with $925 with your premium increase? I think most of us would take the bag of money that has $6,700. And in year two, that's going to be $8,300. And year three, that's going to be $11,200. So, and this stays at 925. This stays at 9.25 while this continues to climb every year. Okay? Yeah, so someone's asking about the pension plan being in the red. Again, I understand your frustration with that, but the rehabilitation plan has drastically improved the outlook for the pension plan. And don't take my word for it. Go back and look at the data, right? If you're in the pension plan, now you have to have 5 years or more to be vested. So you might not get paperwork. You might not get this annual notice if you don't have 5 years. But for those of you that have 5 years or more, you get an annual notice end of April, beginning of May every year, right? And the plan is moving in the right direction. It was 81% funded back in 2019. It's 87% funded now. Is it moving fast enough for me or you? Definitely not. But it is moving in the right direction. It is improving. And the stock market, they're taking less risk. Uh, they're investing money in less risky stocks, which will be not good for us when the market is doing good, but it'll be good for us when the market does bad. It will not take the dip that it was taking in past years. Okay. Uh,
We can send the link around afterwards so people can see the slides.
okay, yeah. So there's a lot of questions in here that we answered earlier in the slide. So just to try to get through as many questions as I can, please go back and review the video when you get a chance. I will answer this one though. Why didn't SORs get lead pay get the same amount of money as, I'm sorry, why did SORs not get the same premium as the leads? We did propose that. We feel that the SORs do take on as much responsibility as leads, and we did try to propose lead pay for the SORs. The company had no interest in that, and they were only willing to go up to 50 cents. But that was our proposal. Okay? Speaking of the leads, I do also want to mention this. We did propose lead increases to be, the lead premium to be 10% with a minimum of 350. That was our initial proposal. Okay. The company did not want to increase the lead premiums at all. They had no interest in doing it. And the reason is they felt that they gave a 71% increase to the lead premium back in 2023, which is true. When we went from $1.75 to $3, that is a 71% increase. I still feel like the leads take on a tremendous amount of responsibility, and they deserve more because they're doing more. They run the operation runs as well as it does because of the leads. But that was our proposal, was 10% of your salary. So just for example, if you were at top of scale $41 and you got 10%, that would be 410. And that would continue to climb. Every time you got a raise in the base pay, your premium would go up. But again, United just was not willing to do it. And we ended up settling for a quarter in 2029. And that is where we ended up. I understand that that frustrated the leads. It frustrated us on the negotiating team as well. But I just wanted to let you know what we proposed and why the company didn't feel that they need. Also, let me just back up. Excuse me. United felt that the increase to $3 more than fulfilled whether it was a lead premium or move team premium, that there was no longer a need to increase that because they would no longer had people not bidding those positions. So because they were able to successfully fill those positions, plus give them a 71% increase, they felt there was not a need to increase the lead premium. So somebody's asking about the pay. If I could ask you to just go and kind of go back and read that. Okay, if the tentative agreements does not ratify, when we will get our next pay raise? I could not tell you that. We would have to go back into negotiations. Okay, just to give you for an example, the United Airlines flight attendants, they were in negotiations for 6 years trying to improve the profit sharing, amongst other things. They ended up not doing that. I also want to just share something with you. The flight attendants, they were in negotiations and they reached a TA about 10 months ago, right? And a lot of people think that they got more money. They actually didn't get more money. What they did was they canvassed their members for proposals, and what they did was they moved their vacation accrual. The new vacation accrual is not going to start till 2031 now. Okay? And in exchange for that, they got what's called sick pay, which sick pay means nothing to anybody in this contract, but they did exchange one thing for the other, but they did not add value to the contract. Okay. The mechanics rejected their contract in 2024. They are still waiting. That's over 2 years ago. They are still waiting for their second contract to get uh, to reach a, I'm sorry, to reach a second TA. Okay. So as far as when we would get our next raise, we would not get a raise until we ratified an agreement. That could be a year from now, 2 years from now. If we have to go to mediation, possibly 4 or 5 years from now. I could not give you a definitive answer on that. Is there any mention in the updates in regards to TA regarding FMLA? FMLA was not changed in any way in these negotiations. Okay. Someone's asking about the IAM pension plan contributions. You can go back and watch the beginning of the video. I talk in depth about that. This is a fair question here. Okay, so we talked about security, job security in the beginning of our webinar here, and we talked about how this is the only contract that secures express work in the airline industry. Express work makes up about 38%, 40% of United's total flight schedule, right? So if we didn't have security on the express work, about 40% of us could lose our jobs tomorrow if we did not have that work protected. Now that can't happen because that's protected work, but somebody's asking about below the wing work in Dulles, and that is the one area that we have not been able to secure express work is below the wing in Dulles. I can promise you, people like Bob Martin, who's the union rep there, and Bill Pierre, and Ali, and all those guys, they're always on top of me to try to get and secure that work, express work below the wing in Dulles. Here's our problem. It's done by a vendor in Swissport, and their pay is about half of what we get. So United Airlines just does not have an appetite to transition that work to United Airlines because it would cost them almost double what it cost them to have a vendor do it. We can miss that one. Were there any changes to retiree travel benefits? So travel benefits, retiree travel benefits in particular, are a company policy. There is no contractual rights to that other than the fact that whatever any other group gets in retirement, we will get the same. So there was no changes because that's not a negotiated item in contract negotiations. Okay, so is this an FTI question? What constitutes an emergency with regard to mandatory overtime? So the example the company gave us is if they have a training session that has to be given at a certain time and there's nobody there to give that assignment or give that training session, that they may ask an FTI member to stay or to work that mandatory overtime in order to train that class if nobody's willing to come in voluntarily. So the question is in passenger service during a grievance period or right prior to initial hearing, the proposed agreement states the employee can pick this is more for an investigation than an initial hearing, right? As you know, most committees are made up of 3, 4, 5 individuals on the grievance committee. So if you prefer someone to conduct your hearing rather than someone else on the committee, you could do that. But the language we negotiated gives somebody the opportunity to pick the shop steward of their choice that is readily available on the property should they be brought into an investigation. Where today, the company grabs Mike Klemm, the shop steward, but Ali, who's being brought in, does not want to use Mike Klemm. Right now, they said, well, you're going to use Mike Klemm. Under the new contract, you'd be able to pick Jane Doe to represent you rather than Mike. A few of my friends were let go because they did not get the vaccine. It's another great addition in this contract. The vaccines will no longer, United Airlines can no longer mandate a vaccine going forward, and that applies to all seven contracts. Okay. Now, what's important to know is if the government requires you to have a vaccine, then we'd all have to adhere to that. But United Airlines will no longer be able to solely mandate a vaccine. Okay, somebody's asking again, this was another question and why I wanted to do this webinar. A lot of people are under the false perception that if you don't vote, it's an automatic yes vote. That's not true, right? There's 11,500 customer service agents. If 11 of them vote, six vote no and five vote yes, that contract for all 11,000 people will be rejected. Okay, and vice versa. Why don't we have a Me Too if the American Delta or Southwest go above our pay? There is no group on United has a Me Too clause as far as salary from other airlines going up. We feel very secure that we will be right in the money as far as, and we'll be back in negotiations in 2030. That if somebody goes above, and you listen, you want American or Delta will never go above us, but you want American or Southwest to go above us in wages. They won't go drastically above us, but you want them to go above us so that we can then leapfrog them when we go back in negotiations. But right now, American and Southwest, they have one more raise each in each of their contracts. We have four more. We have five more, really. We get data sign increase, and then we have five more increases of the 3% raises, then a 3.7% raise, and then a 4% raise at the end. Okay, so we expect to outpace them for sure. I guess get that. So a question is coming in, was a lower number of years for top I'd ever discussed. It was discussed ad nauseum, right? We talked about it. It was one of our higher proposals. Okay. We would have loved to listen, if it was up to me, and United Airlines will tell you this, I can spend United Airlines money better than anybody. If it was up to me, you'd have 6 months probation and then you go right top of scale. That in a perfect world, that's what it would be. That's what I want to see. So, but United Airlines, in order to remain competitive with the other carriers, every carrier, whether it's customer service, whether it's ramp, whether it's stores, all of them have a pay progression of at least 11 steps. Okay, so United, in order to maintain the competitiveness, they were just reluctant to go less than 11 steps. What does the contract say? Minimum I have to work, transferring back. Can officially retire. Okay, so this question is about, and this did not change in this contract, but I will answer this question. This question is about if I'm on furlough and I want to retire with my flight benefits, how long do I have to come back before I can officially retire? So this is something that was established in 2013 and has not changed since then. If you are on furlough status today, okay, and you want to retire from United Airlines and have travel benefits, you need to come back and work for 1 full year in order to do that. Okay, there is no mandatory vaccine anymore. Okay, so that's okay. Now, the only way a vaccine can become mandatory is if the government mandates it. Okay, United Airlines can no longer mandate it. How much? Another great question. Okay, how much will dues go up? So dues will not go up or down whether this contract passes or fails. Okay, dues only go up based on the CPI every January, and that's in the Constitution. Has nothing to do with contract negotiations. Has nothing to do with Mike Klemm. Has nothing to do with District Lodge 141. It's a constitutional requirement that your dues will go up based on the CPI. Now, CPI is usually about 2.5 to 3%. So if you're spending about $80 a month in dues, 2.5, 3% of that is about $1.60. Okay. Let's keep going. We answered that one already. Please go back and look at the video. When or how will we know if the TA passes? So we will probably we'll know this Friday night. We will probably know within the hour. Okay. We will probably communicate that. We're going to try to communicate that Friday night, but no later than Monday. Okay. But word of mouth will get around whether they passed or not. We will know within an hour. Okay, because it's all done electronically. It's done by Ballot Point, which is a separate company. It's not the IM doing it. Obviously, it's not the company doing it. It's a separate entity, Ballot Point, who will be doing the whole the voting electronically. Okay? Can we still fight for more stations during this agreement? We don't even have to fight for them, okay? In order to insource a station, as long as United, if they operate 35 flights or more, okay, a day for a 9-month period, we have to do that work, okay? Furthermore, I just want to illustrate again, JFK, if they operate one flight at JFK, because JFK is listed in Article 2A1, that work automatically has to be done by IAM represented employees at United Airlines, okay? Was there any change to the grievance procedure? We did make some significant improvements to the grievance procedure. Okay. One of them is that if somebody writes a statement today, if somebody writes a statement and does not have a union representative with them, United has been failing to hand over those statements. Now they will be required to do that under this, if the contract passes. This is a pension 401k question. I would please ask you to go back and look at the video earlier in the video. We talk about that at length, so I could try to get to as many questions as we can. The question is, if this contract passes, does the union get an incentive? Okay, nothing can be further from the truth. Mike Klemm doesn't get profit sharing. Nobody, no full-time officers get profit sharing. Your dues do not go up. I do not get Richie Johnson or Brian Bryant do not give me $20,000 because we got 7 contracts passed. There is absolutely no incentive for myself or anybody on the negotiating team or District Lodge 141 Executive Board if this contract passes. Absolutely none. Same thing. Okay. All right. Okay, it is 11:05. Okay, if I did not get to your question, I have to catch a flight to Houston now. I apologize, all right? I have to catch a flight to Houston. If I did not answer your question, I would please ask you to go to iam141.org, okay? Send your question in through there, and I promise you somebody will follow up from our staff and answer your questions. I thank you for your time. I appreciate you joining me, and please share this information with everybody and vote on the facts and not on what's said on social media. Thank you very much. Have a great day.